As most of you may know, I just spent the last 2 weeks in Japan, and some of you were asking on the Discord for a video on the experience. Now, I don't really know how to do travel videos, as this is a channel about playing video games and talking about video games, but I'll at least give it an attempt. Quick moment off script, sorry if I sound a little weird on this one. I'm getting sick and, well, it's become clear my voice is only going to get worse before it gets better, so I'm just trying to get through this now. Our first stop sees us in Tokyo, where most of our time was spent in Shibuya, a major commercial center I've always wanted to see for a combination of food and shopping. To be fully honest with you, exploring food was actually what I wanted to do most in Japan. First thing we did when we arrived in Shibuya was utilize some tickets my wife bought for Shibuya Sky, which is an observation deck more than 220 meters above Shibuya. So we got a great view of the place before we started exploring. And of course, being me, there were two major stores I really wanted to see: Pokemon Center Tokyo and Nintendo Tokyo, both conveniently placed in the same building. Now, as most of you may be aware, I streamed the mainline Pokemon games using what is, at least on paper, the worst type to use in each region, and I've wanted to collect sitting cuties, or Pokemon Fit as they are called in Japan, of the Pokemon I used in those streams ever since. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get them all at this store, but I got a nice start to it. Each of these was around 1,300 yen, which is roughly half the price it would cost me at home, so pretty great deal. Really wish I could have finished the Bugs of Kanto though. Once I finished at Pokemon Center, I of course went right to the Nintendo store, picked up these two shirts, this keychain, and pin, and learned that Switch games in Japan are cheaper than they are in America, and will be able to be played in English. So I grabbed these games there. And by cheaper, I mean $40 to $45 per game, as opposed to the $60 they would be back home. I almost picked up the Xenoblade games for Switch while I was there, since it's a series I've been meaning to try out, but one of the store employees told me Xenoblade 2 was the only thing in the shop that won't work in English, so I guess that series is still on the back burner. After that, Allie wanted to check out the Jump Store, and to keep things short, we continue to try different food and pick up different souvenirs. We'll be here all day if I continue to talk about the random things we bought in Shibuya, so let's move on to Shinjuku, where they have really cool 3D billboards. Shinjuku is another commercial shopping center, so rather than talk about the shopping we did in this city, I'll share these photos we got of the beautiful national park there. I also got this black sesame seed ice cream, and it tastes exactly how it sounds, which wasn't bad. I don't know what I was expecting from it, but yeah, it's just sesame seeds, but as a cream. We also went to this ramen shop I wanted to go to out of curiosity, since I've seen a lot of mixed reviews on it from tourists, some saying it's amazing, and even more saying it was overrated. And after trying it, I can honestly say it was the third best bowl of ramen I had the whole trip, and I ate ramen almost every day. It was awesome. After that, we spent a day in Asakusa, enjoying even more shopping, some street food, and visiting this temple. We went in and got our fortunes done. I got a regular fortune, which basically said I have to work hard to achieve what I want. So luck isn't going to hinder me, but it's not helping me either, which I guess is fine, but it'd be nice if the easy route was an option. Allie drew a bad fortune, so we had to tie her fortune to a branch and leave her bad luck behind. I don't think we did it right, because a lot of misfortune would follow Allie soon, but we'll get to that later. The last thing we did in Tokyo was a trip to Disney Sea. Now, my wife and I aren't the biggest Disney fans, so going to Disney Sea was a combination of wanting to compare it to the Disney parks in the US, and because it's simply a highly recommended tourist stop. But if I'm being honest, I kinda think it was the weakest part about the stay in Tokyo. To briefly go over my full experience of it, aesthetically, it's hands down better than the Disney parks in the US. However, in my opinion, the US does rides a lot better. So if we can combine the aesthetic of the Japan park with the rides of the US parks, we'd get the true ultimate Disney park. One harsh lesson we also learned was that getting food in a Disney park in Japan seems to be something you have to plan ahead for, as all of the restaurants were fully booked, so you have to have that ready in advance. And if you think I'll just get by on concession stands, think again, because there wasn't a single one where you weren't in line for half an hour first before getting your food, so be better than us and plan food ahead. Now it was time to leave Tokyo and head for Hakone, where we stayed at a ryokan, which are traditional Japanese inns that provide a more cultural experience. Before I tell you more about it, I just want to take a moment to say that something I've always heard about Japan is that it's very easy for tourists to get confused or lost on the transits, but it seemed really straightforward straightforward to me. At least the places we went to we never really got lost or on the wrong transit or anything, but a lot of stuff was also written in English. In fact, majority of the time, the English writing was actually bigger and more noticeable than the Japanese text below it. I can't confirm it, but according to some of the people we spoke to, that was actually incorporated within the last 10 years. But don't quote me on that. Overall, though, surprisingly easy for someone like me who can't speak or read any Japanese to find what I'm looking for. Now, to talk about the ryokan. It was amazing. This one was full of bathhouses that drew their water from a nearby hot spring. I made an effort to use every bath they had there. It was a great way to relax after being in busy cities, walking over 20,000 steps every day for 4 days. And we got a nice dinner and breakfast served to us as well. After we checked out and had our luggage sent to the next hotel in Osaka ahead of us, we decided to take an extra journey and hopped on a transit and cable car to see Mount Fuji. Since if I'm being honest, I'm probably never going to have the opportunity to go to Japan a second time, and we wanted to see as much as we could. It unfortunately was a cloudy day, so we didn't get the best view, but still it was something I'm glad we took the time for. Now it's time for Osaka. We got here before our luggage, so we didn't have a change of clothes, but we made it, checked into our hotel, and immediately fell asleep. Now remember that misfortune I mentioned Allie facing earlier? Well, it started with her waking up with an eye infection of some kind. She'd gotten her lashes done before we left, so maybe that was the cause, but we're not certain. So I got sent on a quest to find her either an eye patch or some kind of sunglasses. She already had eye drops, so she just wanted to keep the infected eye out of the sun. Unfortunately, I would learn most stores don't open until at least 10 a.m. Not sure if all of Japan works that way or just the area of Osaka we were in, but we couldn't immediately find what we were looking for. Once all stores opened, we started searching for sunglasses together, and that took us about 2 hours. Once we finally got the side quest done, we got fluffy pancakes, my new optimal way of eating pancakes, and headed to the Osaka Aquarium Kaiyukan, I think that's how you say that, and got to see whale sharks. There was, of course, other amazing sea life, but those whale sharks were the main thing to see. The next day, I discovered there was a Pokemon Center Osaka and picked up some extra Pokemon fit. Still didn't get the Kanto bugs I was looking for, but got closer to completing other teams, and then picked up even more video games. Don't judge me, they're cheaper here. And then we headed to Universal Japan, which was significantly better than Disney Sea. We naturally went to Nintendo Land for me during the afternoon, and then went to the Harry Potter park for nerds like Allie, and both were amazing. I got some gifts for friends in Nintendo Land, got myself this slick jacket and shirt. Looking around, I even discovered they had Pikmin blending in throughout the park, which Allie really appreciated. And in the distance, you can see where I suspect the upcoming Donkey Kong Park of Super Nintendo Land is being constructed. We were unfortunately too early for that one, as it won't be ready until December. Our last day in Osaka was then spent in Dotonbori, I think that's how you say that, which is a tourist attraction nightlife area with a lot of street food. And it was alright. I kinda had higher hopes for the street food, but it was still a good time, except for these chicken skewers we got, which I took a large bite out of without looking, while Allie took a small bite out of hers, looked at her skewer, spit her piece out, turned to me and said, "Not to be funny, but are these cooked?" And sure enough, I looked at mine and it was definitely pink. A color you don't want chicken to be, so if I release a video called I Have Worms, you'll know what happened. But after that, it was time to once again send our luggage to the next hotel for the last leg of our trip in Kyoto. And as soon as we arrived, Allie had another moment of bad luck and got sick with strep throat. We got checked into our hotel. It was 7 p.m. The nearest walk-in clinic was a 30-minute walk away and closed at 8:30. And I had to talk Allie into going now rather than wait until morning, which I'm glad I made her go, because I learned that clinic opens at 6:30 p.m. That place is open only 2 hours a day and advertises itself as a tourist walk-in clinic, and with how many other American and British tourists were there ahead of us, it's apparently working for them. But we went in, got Allie her antibiotics, and went back to our hotel to sleep. Now, the next day Allie was too bedridden to do much, so I ventured out on my own and walked over to Pokemon Center Kyoto. That's right, there's a third one. This one was a bust, however. It didn't have anything I was looking for that I didn't get. at one of the other two. I did get these cool photos though. I guess this one's a Gen 2 focused one. Look, someone even wrote on Ho-Oh's butt. After that, I went to Nintendo Store Kyoto and grabbed Link's Awakening for Switch, and then just shopped around randomly. I did find a store selling PS5 games and grabbed this copy of Astrobot, which claims it will work in English, but I haven't tested that yet, so hopefully that works. The next day, with Allie feeling much better, we ventured out to Nara, got kimono rentals, which Allie really wanted to do, and then went to the famous deer park where deers bow for crackers. It was pretty neat. After that, we spent our last day visiting shrines and doing, you guessed it, even more shopping for last minute gifts for friends. And with that, we woke up early the next day and began what was an unexpectedly long journey to get home. In what I will call Allie's last stroke of bad luck, we woke up to finding our flight was going to be delayed by 2 hours, and the bullet train we needed to take to get back to the airport was also delayed by 2 hours, which apparently is very rare for a train to be delayed in Japan. We just apparently have a particularly special brand of bad luck. I should take this moment to mention there are no direct flights from Japan to the US, so our delayed flight was taking us to Canada, where we would board a plane to DC, and then another plane taking us home. However, the delayed flight caused us to miss the connecting flight, as we were still descending when we got the message saying it had begun boarding. And it was well after the takeoff time after we landed. And apparently most employees leave the Canadian airport around 8:30, so it became a chore trying to figure out who we needed to talk to, since the delayed flight made us miss the connecting flight. After an hour of searching, we finally got to the right person and explained our situation, and they told us they held that flight for us for 20 minutes. And I believe that was a lie, but more on that later. It then took them another hour to find us new flights home and to get us a hotel for the night. Now, the new planes they put us on were now taking us to New York first and then home instead of DC, which, whatever, I just want to go home, man. So we board a 6:30 a.m. flight to New York, running on about 3 hours of sleep, only to make it to the next airport to learn the second flight they got us was as on standby tickets to a fully booked plane. So we're now in New York at 8 a.m. and the next guaranteed flight they can get us on is at 7:30 p.m. So we spent the day at the airport hoping we'd get lucky and board one of the 3 early flights home, only for all 3 of them to be fully booked. And then our guaranteed 7:30 flight got delayed 20 minutes. Now, remember when I said that I believe it was a lie that they held the flight we missed for 20 minutes? Well, the reason I believe that was a lie is because we kept running into people that were also on the flight delayed to Canada that also missed that exact same flight to DC, and those employees really made it sound like we were the only 2 that missed it, so I think they were just telling that story to everyone. But we'd finally done it. We'd finally gotten home, our luggage had no problem getting here and was actually hours ahead of us. Overall, amazing trip. Terrible ending though. And with that, all I have left to say is, love you. Mean it. Click. Hey guys, if you're still here, go ahead and hit like and subscribe for me. If I kept your attention this long, I'd say I've earned it. That Fire Emblem video I promised is still on schedule to come out in December. I just can't confirm when yet, but it will be in December, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that one. Now, if you'll excuse me, I've got video games to confirm will work in English. You enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.